Oh, okay. So I didn't. Okay. Well, since you started the recording, I thought that you'd start.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
Sorry.
sorry.
I'm going to edit it later, so it'll be fine. So,
oh, okay, then that's fine.
We'll start though, because I have a heartbreak at 7:58. 6:58.
6:58. Okay.
Yeah. Welcome to Bridges Live Presents You Be the Judge every Wednesday at 6 p.m. We are here with my lovely co-host, Marylin, Pierre here, soon to be Circuit Court Judge of Montgomery County, and Judge Claudia Barber. And we have back again. I love it, Karen Holmes. This is awesome. And then we have our other guest that always comes on. Thanks, Will, and thanks, Holly, for always joining us here on You Be the Judge. This been a tough week. It's been always an ongoing week, but I want to hear how you doing, Judge Barber. How you been?
I've been well, thank you, and glad to see another day. I'm a bit concerned about uneven coverage of news when it comes to the story of Gabby Petito.
Yes.
I'm just floored.
Wow, so much.
It's every day, top of the news, top of the hour news, top of the hour news, top of the hour news. And I'm thinking,
and I'm gonna say it out loud: a white woman dies, and we just can't get enough of finding out what happened.
Okay, I am so sorry. I've got to go back again because I have a life. Sorry. So I saw something coming across there, and I'm like, what's that? Let me move on to something I'm really interested in. Yeah, what was that? If you could bring us back again.
How about this? Let me pull this back. Life and death is serious. Dying is serious. Being killed is serious. All is serious. It's not, but when a woman was killed, they don't know who did it. They found her body recently, but they were scouring. I mean, they were beating bushes for a while to find this person, which is great. But here's the other thing: they don't do it for everybody.
Oh, absolutely.
That's so when I see things or hear things, I look at it and I'm going, wow, I can't, another person's died, got shot in Baltimore, whatever, all of it affects me. But then it goes to the other level where I'm like, man, they're covering this very hard. They're really digging into this. It becomes a JonBenet Ramsey thing all over again. It's like,
yes,
who killed this woman? And I'm like, who is this woman? Like, was she? I didn't know anything about her.
Was she Lucille Ball?
Right. Was she a writer? Like, I'm sorry, I didn't know all the books she's written.
I have to push. Okay. I have to push back against that a little bit because a life is a life, and whether and I don't agree with the VIP. So and so is a VIP. What does that mean? We're all children of God. So I put us all. I
agree with that too.
I agree with that too, but we don't get the same coverage as movie personalities or as people of more fortune. We don't get the same coverage. So I thought she was of that class.
And I don't remember, when Shirley Chisholm died, they gave that much coverage. And she to me is an icon.
Right.
But
she's an icon to you.
Usual suspect in terms of, is there intrigue and, do they have people that they suspect? Do they have, is that what the interest is, or is it just?
Well, 300 and some people are murdered in Baltimore City within the last year before that, possibly the year before that, and so on. There hasn't been nonstop coverage of those deaths. There just hasn't been. There's just been a total uneven coverage in this situation. Relisha Rudd, she's not a national story and she was the one, and she's the one that her death was, or her disappearance as missing as a child for years has happened in this Washington, D.C. area. And I'm stunned at law enforcement for not seeing or finding leads that would lead to the arrest of whatever, whomever caused her disappearance.
Have you heard the podcast? NPR did I think it was 7 parts podcast on it. It was excellent. I mean, it was really, really excellent. It's still on their website.
Good.
At the WAMU.org website.
I must see it.
Yeah, I must see it too.
Well, you must listen to it. It's radio. But anyway, it is absolutely excellent. And yeah, I don't want to give anything away or anything else like that, but it was just, there was just such a thorough job that was done.
That's important because, I have to ask myself, because my sister, she was disturbed because it was a child.
Mhm.
And she's a school teacher. But she was concerned about, now, how is it that the chief of police knows nothing?
Nothing
at all?
Like, how does that work? Either he's lying, he has to be lying, or.
Well, this happened under Kathy Lanier.
Oh, yeah, but I still don't understand why she didn't know anything.
Well, if you listen to the podcast, I think you'll understand more about what happened. Yeah, like I said, it's excellent and it's very thorough. Did anybody else happen to listen to the podcast on Relisha Rudd, RUDD? Like I said, it's at WAMU.org. And if you look at it, it's called Through the Cracks. You could click on it and listen to, I want to say it's in 7 parts. And it is absolutely excellent.
Okay, so you said WAMU, and that is a local station. So is it a national story?
I don't. I would not know.
Okay.
I don't think it's a national story.
Okay.
Yeah, I think.
Well, no, this Gabby Petito is a national story.
Oh, yes, I know, because I like I said, I was looking for something that, I was looking for what I wanted to talk about, which was the Haitian. They call them migrants. I don't even understand where that word came from.
Okay,
but anyway,
right. We'll talk about
that's what
that.
I wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I'd like to talk about that.
I'd like to talk about that too.
But before we do that, does anybody else want to talk about this lady?
Well, I think what the issue, I think what Judge Claudia Barber was saying is it's the not equal press
on the disparity
on the
coverage.
News, on the coverage. It just isn't. It just isn't. And I don't think it ever will. But wait a minute. If there was 5 black boys who did something in Baltimore and harmed somebody, it would be all over the national. It would be streamed all over the world about how they kick someone's teeth in.
Of course, the Central 5 was treated that way.
Right.
Of course they were.
Yep. And they were guilty and they were innocent.
They were innocent until proven guilty, or guilty until proven innocent, rather, which is supposed to be backwards.
That's actually, that also was excellent. It's kind of interesting. I had a client who said he saw that miniseries, When They See Us. Yeah, that's what it was called.
Yep.
He saw that the day before he got arrested by the police, and so the first thing he asked for was a lawyer. He says, "I don't want to talk to you. I just want a lawyer." And he credited that movie, but that miniseries, with teaching him his rights, basically, in terms of, hey, if you get picked up by the police, you need to call a police officer. And he was 16 years old. He's like, I didn't know they could ask me questions like that, and and not call my mother, and they were. And he's like, oh, I want a lawyer. So
if people don't remember, Donald Trump took out a full-page ad to convict them. Okay.
Yeah, to this day, he's still saying that they're guilty.
Right.
Yeah. So what can you do? But anyway, the Haitians, yes.
Let's get to it.
My blood is literally boiling, at what is going on over there. And I am just so upset. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Holly, do you want to talk about that? You said your brother-in-law.
Oh, no, I don't want to take away. I just wanted to say.
No. We could talk about that.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, it was really quite a miscarriage of justice.
oh, boy, was it ever. And
Well,
I really think that
a
those
serious
police officers should
miscarriage
have been
of
held
justice.
accountable.
So let me ask you this, Holly, since your brother-in-law was one of the attorneys of the Central Park case, I'll ask you not for your brother-in-law's perspective, because this is now I got on my interview hat. So in your own perspective, how did you feel about the case when you first start to hear about it and knowing it was part of, I know legal guys, you guys can talk about stuff inside the house, but everyone has an opinion, I'm sure. So how was it? How did you feel about the case then?
You know, I can answer that really clearly, passionately.
Okay.
You know, I can't remember it. I mean, it's just like a blurry memory, and I'm so sorry. I mean,
Well, let me ask you this. Did you believe this was all about cracks in the judicial system?
Yeah.
Deficiencies
How
in the
could you not?
judicial
Yeah.
system.
Yeah.
You know, because how is it that some judge could not accurately pick up on missing links here, especially when they were not involved in the Central Park Five were not guilty of this crime.
Here's the thing with crime that I heard someone say recently. You're going to be guilty because 1, you're black. 2, is going to be a white judge. 3, they're going to make sure it's a white detective that's going to make sure that you're going to be convicted. And then 4, it's probably going to be a white jury. So, I mean, those are things that you're just guilty right there. I mean, it's hard to beat that system.
Well, that's exactly what I believe his name was Ray Hinton, who wrote the book, The Sun Will Shine Again, who was incarcerated for decades for a crime he did not commit. He said those were pretty much verbatim the words of the officer who trumped up the charges and just sucked him into you're guilty. I'll pick you. You're the person that did this. And the same thing with the movie Just Mercy. The person incarcerated for decades, and the Equal Justice Initiative, Stevenson, put together that movie based on a true story, where again, the law enforcement system just runs amok and charges innocent people, and it's a don't care attitude. But again, I bring it back to putting judges on the bench who don't care, and putting judges on the bench who are not skillfully trying to ferret out the truth and see missing links and holes in people's stories. I don't care if you're the chief of police testifying. That doesn't give you, that doesn't make your story true. You have to weigh the evidence, and you have to see whether or not that stuff fleshes out to be true.
I don't know. Judge Barber, Marylin, Pierre, and the attorneys that are in the room, the ones that are here that we talk to, you're talking from a we call justice standpoint. A lot of court cases aren't for justice; they're for incarceration.
Or they're just for a show.
Well, I think that's why I think it's so important that there be police accountability, because it's one thing when you make a mistake. It's another thing when you intentionally try to
trump up charges,
get somebody incarcerated. And what's scary is that whoever committed the crime is still out there. And so that person is saying, hey, I got away with it once, I might as well get away with it again. So that is something that is harmful to all of us.
Well, let's take it also back to the story of the Haitians, because I don't want to lose all the time on on police and judicial issues, but to bring it back into the issue of the Haitians. Now, this is the Biden administration. And now, okay, this is a big mess up for them. I'm gonna just put it out there. It's a big mess up because this ain't no way you can justify this. This is your Department of Homeland Security, and we see you in a video with people on horses and whipping people.
And grabbing them by the shirt and, yelling at obscenities at them. And
this is your mess up.
Well, I'm going to let Marylin talk because her blood is boiling and I don't want it to boil over. But here's my take on it. The American people, Black people, have not collectively strong enough got together to make our voices heard previously, whether it be last year, 5 years, 10 years, 30 years. So horses whipping people is going to be allowed because of the things we have not done yet. That's where my take is. Is it wrong? Absolutely. But is it going to be allowed? Absolutely. Why? Because we did not do enough for them to think, should this be allowed? Is this okay? So that's how little we have done, where someone as a person, we're not even talking about racial issue, as a human being, to treat another human being this way. People want to talk about immigration and these people and that people. We're talking about human beings. I don't care if they want to come across the border. You don't whip them with a whip on a horse. What? Come on, right?
What kind of insane, archaic a country allows such a thing? That's something out of
but that's because we don't teach relationships in school. We don't teach human kindness in school. We don't teach anything. We'll teach you math. We'll teach you how to spell, but how you treat people, oh, the hell with it, right? So us as an American people have not emphasized enough to who and to the what and to the whatevers that this will never take place ever again. And we could have done that since the 63 riots, 66 riots.
Yes, Dr. Dyer, you hit the nail on the head. But I'd like to add to that is that I think that we as people should be fed up and sick and tired of demanding things that should be normal.
Right.
Okay. Right. I mean, why do you need laws to tell somebody not to discriminate? Why do you need that? So act right. It's just as simple as that.
It's the same reason why we need laws for voting laws. Why do we need a voting law? We don't need a voting law for white people.
No, exactly.
Okay, so they don't need a voting law. So who needs the voting law?
Right.
Thank you. We wouldn't have a voting law if it wasn't for, because everyone else could vote.
Yeah, but see, all this police reform legislation, all that's about is, well, we're trying to make you to do right by us. We already know there's an uneven application of the law. We already know that you've over-incarcerated us. So this is something that should be common sense to every human being. Civil rights is human rights.
There's more Blacks incarcerated in America than we have in the state of Maryland. That's scary.
It is.
But Marylin, go ahead before you I see your rice is boiling.
Yeah, I am speechless, and you know how hard it is to get me to that point. But I mean, I was already upset before the whips and whatever it is that they think that they were doing over there, because I cannot believe that the Biden administration is doing that. It just, all of a sudden, it's okay to follow one of Trump's mandates. And not only that, but the policy makes no sense. because these people haven't been in Haiti in what, 11 years. They have no home to go to. It's not like they left their houses a couple of weeks ago and now they're going back to Haiti. They haven't been in Haiti since the 2010 earthquake. And so they have no home to go to. And then on top of that, what you keep hearing is that, oh, most of the people are Haitians. And what the policy actually is some of them are Cubans. So the Cubans are allowed to file for asylum if they pick them up, but the Haitians are not. So the Haitians are just picked up and put on a plane and sent to a country that they haven't been to for over 10 years.
Discriminatory.
Yeah, exactly.
Based on race, based on nationality, discriminatory.
And Biden saying, well, you could file for asylum in place. Who files for asylum in place? You know, if you were able to file for asylum, that means that the authorities allow you to do it, which means that you don't really need asylum because you have the right to do that. Nobody files for asylum in place. That's why you get out of the country and then you file for asylum.
And no authorities going to let you. No authorities are going to let you. So, I mean,
it's a circular argument.
It really, really is. And I am just really, really surprised at what is going on. I did not think that this would have happened. It's just really, really ugly. Had this been another country, we would have been yelling and screaming about, you know, international human rights and things of that sort. But it's our country. I actually had a discussion with someone on Monday, and he said, because I like to hear all sides, you know, and he said, well, where are we going to put them? And I said, well, first of all, you have all these states that are begging for people. And so we could put them in those states. You have states like, I think it's New Hampshire they want people to come live there so much they will pay them $20,000 or something of that sort. Wow. And yeah, and so let's put them in those states. They don't have to go to Texas or California. They could go to one of those states. They could go to, I say North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, one of these states where, you know, the cows outnumber people because they are looking for people. And not only that, but if you give them, if you let them apply for political asylum and they cannot prove their case, then you send them back because there's a process for them to do that. And if they can't prove their case, there's a process for you to deport them. You just don't pick them up and just, you know, send them willy-nilly to a place that they haven't been in all these years. And like you said, you know, Judge Barber and Dr. Dyer, the ugliness of it all, the way that these people are being treated is so inhumanely. It's like they're, you know, well, I've gotten much more sensitive to animals since I stopped eating meat, but it's as if they're treating them in a way that they're not even, that they don't even have a soul. They don't matter. It doesn't matter what you do to them. Let me just grab them and push them out of the way if I need to because they're so insignificant. And it really, really is painful to watch.
Those pictures are painful reminders that our criminal justice system is rooted in slave patrol.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, that's just another you know, relic or method of slave patrol. Come on here, you know.
It really is, because I cannot imagine any other race being chased like that. And, you know, well, see, I say things like that, and then I have to back up and say, because we know race is a social construct, race doesn't really exist. But I guess the short-handed way of explaining it is to say that I cannot imagine anybody who looks differently from people who look like me, people who have the same blood as I do. I'm probably related to many of these people, you know, being treated like that. It's just, and I think also, I want to go back and talk about America, you know, being the America that it is because of the Haitians, and then being turned around and treated like that. It's as if you offer somebody, you know, your prized possession and they just took it and threw it away.
I don't listen to a lot of so much news or talk shows like this, like we have on You Be the Judge. But I also don't hear an outcry that this isn't good. I don't hear that. Again,
The outcry is not strong.
Yes.
It's not strong.
Yeah, but I do hear the outcry saying that this deserves to happen. I do hear that this needs to happen. This needs to happen more. We need to push these people out. I actually heard, let's open up guns on them and shoot them. So, and I'm thinking, I hear a lot of those. They're coming here to take over America. They're coming here. We need to fight for our freedom. And these people are coming here to disrupt our way of life. And those are the words and the verbiage is being spoken on multitude of TV, radio, and newsprint. Now, I have to go search for the opposite. Very few, if any, at all. That's a problem we have culturally as Americans. I don't think collectively, if we get us into the Washington Stadium, football stadium, how many people we filled there were saying, we disagree with this? You probably couldn't fill a section. That's sad to me.
That is really, really sad. Unbelievably sad. It's just like I said, if only the history of America was taught properly, they would see what the Haitian people did for them and how they couldn't have gotten where they are at now if it weren't for the Haitian people. And maybe then they would. No, I don't think so. Let me back that up, because Haiti has had its independence for over 217 years. And for 217 years, we've been treated like, well, we've been treated really badly because you know, we have to be shown as the example of, oh, you don't get your freedom. You know, you don't fight and win your freedom. We will give you your freedom when we think that you have earned it, which is of course never. So we have to be punished all the time. We have to be, you know, put in our place all the time, because the idea that just in America's backyard, there's a country where, where Black people won their freedom away from their oppressors and their enslavers. They couldn't have that. No, not at all.
But the false narrative that is being embraced,
right.
That that the Haitians should return to their country because they're taking over America. That's just so ridiculous. It's just so outrageous. And the fact of the matter is, and I agree with you, Marylin, Pierre, when you made the point, do you know how many areas in this country where people have open jobs that are not being filled? It's almost in every state, because people are shifting. You know, American citizens are shifting their dynamics. The pandemic has shifted their focus on careers, and the people have changed careers because of the pandemic. So that has resulted in a wealth of jobs that are not being filled.
Will
I be heard?
Have any of y'all ever been to Haiti?
Well, yeah, I have.
I was there like the year after the earthquake in 2012, and I was there for 2 weeks to actually train the Haitians how to do search and rescue and swift water rescue. And I was in Port-au-Prince, and literally where we stayed at while we were there was a pretty decent building, I'll say. Windows were cut out, but there was no windows in it. And we had no hot water, we had no electricity. The road to get to the building was like, you might as well ride on a construction dirt field. That's how bad it was there. So I see why they want to come here, because of the way the living thing, and to go to a mom and pop store and have somebody, a guard standing outside of the store with a shotgun, that's not normal to see that. And that was pretty sad. I mean, I would go back there to do the same training I did, but it was definitely different. You know, when I came back after 2 weeks of being there, it changed my life as far as what I saw there, and said it's much better here.
Wilbur?
Okay, I was just about to say the reason why so many jobs in the United States are going begging is they don't pay enough. It's very simple.
Yeah, that's
There's
true
a lot of that.
yeah.
They'll never pay a living wage.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, I once read somewhere that America is addicted to free labor. And I said, wow, that's really interesting. And that's so true, because when you've gotten it for free for all these years, then you don't value it.
Right? The picture behind me.
Okay,
Right?
so I'm going to say something that probably nobody else also is not saying. There are some people that made a career shift because they were insulted by the rich people who wanted folks to go back to work so that they could continue to be millionaires during the pandemic. And they're like, oh no, I'll find another job.
Yeah.
I don't have to put up with that.
And then they leave crappy tips for the waitress and waiters.
Yes.
That bothers me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just heard a statistic, and this is, I don't know how this is going to, if the government forces people to get the shots to work, 42% say they'll quit.
Okay. There's another hole.
Well,
Yeah.
that's a lot of holes. We already have holes. And then we have 42% people saying, well, if you're going to force me to get a shot or whatever, then I'll just quit.
So if you have that level of open jobs, and people coming in that may very well want a job, any job.
My daughter told me yesterday, she works at a local hospital, and obviously they have to have their shots as of yesterday at midnight. And she said there was the day before, there was 1,900 nurses and doctors that did not get the shot yet. And they've been threatened, if they don't, they're going to get fired. And I said to her, I know you're not going to fire all 1,900. And she said, you're right. But there is going to be something they're going to have to do to those nurses and doctors because they didn't get the shot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they say why they don't want to get it? Because I'm kind of surprised about the pushback from the people in the medical profession, because I thought they would be the first to get it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's being forced. I think it has nothing. I think it's very little to do with the shot, than more than don't tell me what I need to do for X or Y and Z. You can't force me.
But then when you look at the statistics, sorry, Will, I was looking at it. They said, 675,000 Americans, 675,000 people in this country have died from COVID, and only maybe 12,000 of those are people who have had the shots. So when you look at the pros and cons, I thought just the math alone would be convincing.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And it's surprising that there's this pushback against the vaccine from the medical profession, because vaccines have been mandatory for as long as the profession has existed, where you have to have a certain series of shots before you walk on the floor. So there must be something that they know, maybe the uncertainty as far as the efficacy of the vaccine. They don't know enough about the side effects. And also there is too the issue of you're forcing me to have the vaccine that you know very little about in order for me to keep my job.
Will, go ahead, Will. I'll let you speak. Go ahead, Will.
I disagree with that 100%. That people who will not not get the shot are rational. They are not rational.
Absolutely.
And the people do not object to polio shots. What is it? Mumps, rubella, and what?
Chicken pox.
There are 30 of them. There are 30 shots that people don't object to.
Tuberculosis.
They have singled out this one. They are afraid of government, and that's something that, in my view, owes to Ronald Reagan. I would be in World War II. The government was trusted. Ronald Reagan says the worst thing, the most frightening thing anyone can tell you is, "I'm here from the government. I'm here to help."
Well,
And
I have
and
a
he
question. When was prior to this vaccination? When was the last vaccination that was mandatory, and when did that come up?
polio.
And how long? And what year was that?
Uh, 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 my cousin was one of the last people who got it. He is 70 something now. 50 years ago.
So I think. Go ahead.
I don't think so. I think it was more recent than that, because I'm thinking about the parents who said that certain vaccines cause their children to have autism. Because I think ever since there's been that bit of disinformation, and also you could add Donald Trump and all that he and his people did to make sure that people didn't believe that there was a vaccine that could help get rid of COVID. So all of this misinformation, I think, is what we have been hearing. I myself at the beginning was like, I'm not taking this, not only because of the allergies that I have, but because of what I heard. But then when I looked into it, I said, oh, okay, what I was hearing is not true. But there was a lot of disinformation about it from the very beginning. And I think some people still believe some of what was being said about it.
I think with the population from 50 years or even earlier, if you split them up between the age group of who will do it and who won't, I don't think the younger generations are so willing to go along with the polio crowd. I think we have asked enough questions. We study our own science, where 50 years ago, I don't think the population did that. I was a small child, so I would not know. But I don't think the population they were just like, okay, they must know. But I think now you're going to get questioned and you're going to get challenged.
Yeah, because back then we were taught not to question authority figures, not to
Right.
question the experts.
Right.
But now it's so willy-nilly. Everybody's an expert. Everybody's questioning, science, no matter how irrefutable the science is. They're like, well, we know better. We know better than the experts. So therefore, we're not going to follow the experts' advice.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I do listen to the European medical briefing every week. I get invited to the European medical briefing about the virus, and they're just forthcoming about the things they don't know, the things that they're trying, the things they're testing on other groups. And I think that's okay. I just think if the American people was more forthcoming on if we had a news channel that was actually saying, this is all what we know. This is a lot what we don't know. And that's really what we have. I think the European Union does that with their medical stuff, and it's either do or you don't, but this is what we got.
Well, the biggest problem, I think, is they're doing their testing on people that are not black or brown. Right. And that's why a lot of the black people don't want to get the shots, because you haven't done enough testing on us.
Right. Right.
Well, the basic premise behind getting a vaccine still exists, regardless of how much information they're giving out. Mm-hmm. You get a weakened version of the virus and you build up antibodies. And then these antibodies prevent you from getting, if you're exposed to COVID, getting a more severe case of it, where you end up in the hospital or you end up it being fatal. So, but just like you said, the dissemination of, again, false information confuses people, and then they become they indecisive. They don't know whether they should take it or they shouldn't take it. So.
I'm going to ask the attorneys here, the legal minds of the group, can they make this illegal if you don't take it? Can they actually, is there a charge that they could come up with that they will actually prosecute you over? Because I remember when the AIDS epidemic was out, if you spit on someone and you had AIDS, they would charge you with attempted murder, right? You remember that? Is that could they go that way with this? Because I believe it's coming after January. I believe after January they're going to say if you don't have this, they're going to make it actually a charge. Is that possible?
Well, I would say anything is possible, but I don't think that's probable, especially the way the virus is.
Okay.
You might have the virus and you don't know. And you can't force anybody to take medication that they don't want to take. And that, to me, includes a vaccine. Like, even if you're hospitalized and you are in a, how do you say, you're in an institution, you could refuse medication. And so what they're doing instead is they're saying you cannot do this if you don't do that. And I think that they're probably going to be more severe about it. What do you think, Judge Barber? What do you think, Mr. Friedman?
Well, the Constitution as the bedrock is it's going to be tested through the courts. That's the answer. And to the extent that that such a provision, I don't see it coming, not even by executive order. Biden is smart and knows. He's, for the most part, with the exception of this Haiti incident, he has run the country intelligently, to the point that he has used his executive order powers in an intelligent way. And I don't see him going so extreme as to criminalize people for not being vaccinated. I don't even see a president. I don't believe a president has ever done that in the history of this country. Isn't that the question you're asking, Dr. Dyer?
Absolutely. That is a question. But if how come he hasn't used his executive order for this border issue?
Well, that may be coming. That may be coming.
Well, he says that he's adopting Trump. So, but after Mr. Friedman answers the question, I want to go to Miss Oluwipe. I'm so sorry, because I thought you had a wonderful question, and I want to go back to that when Will's done. Go ahead, Will.
Okay. How you all doing this evening? My question was about the financial injustice bestowed on the minority groups, especially brown skin and black, brought about this pandemic. What is your take on this? How do we come out of this? Because over 40,000 jobs were lost by mostly minority. So, whoever—
I think you said 400,000.
No, 40,000.
40,000, okay.
40,000 jobs. And over almost 700,000 lives were lost, by this pandemic. So,
here's the thing with the jobs lost. What jobs were lost? Jobs were lost of service jobs. Predominantly
hospitality industry.
Hospitality, so service industry. Most of those jobs are jobs that are filled by minorities.
That's what I'm saying.
Right. I've managed a hotel. I've been to many hotels. I haven't seen one white person clean a room yet.
No.
Right. And it's nothing against it. I just haven't seen it. And I'm talking, this has been probably 20 years. I've not seen one. Now, are there white people cleaning hotels in the South? Probably. Maybe some Motel 6s somewhere in the south of Louisiana. I don't know. But all the major hotels, absolutely not. So, and restaurants and all these other service industries are predominantly served by lower income, lower economic people. It just happens to be the disparity. It's not so much color, but it's economics, right? So how are we, those people who lost jobs, that economic disparity, whether it be black, white, or whatever, are not a priority to the top people who are actually making the money anyway. I just don't, it's not a concern to them. And if it's not a concern to them, and they're the ones who are going to $35,000 dinner plates for different representatives and different presidents, different elections, and funding all these organizations and going to all these meetings and pushing all the media out there and going to all the news channel, I don't think they care. That's just a fact. I just don't think they care. So private businesses, small businesses, communities like Brooklyn did and Bronx did, New York did, when they were making sure that people ordered from local. We have to look more into community and not into government.
Exactly.
That has been our flaw for a long time. Stop looking to the government and look to community.
Exactly my point. So that we have to learn to educate, our communities on how, because I mean, I understand the moratorium was lifted back in August, I believe, or early September, and the unemployment benefits is out of equation. So, I mean, this I call financial injustice. I mean, the rich are getting richer and the poor are getting poorer. So how do we educate?
Comfort, let me ask you this question.
Yes.
And I'll ask everyone a question. When wasn't that the case?
But it's
when the rich got richer and the poor got poorer. When wasn't that the case?
I understand, but the pandemic has
no. Because if it was never the case, it kind of goes back to the border issue with the Haitians and the border issue. We are so addicted to allowing things to be allowed that we haven't stopped anything. That's an American problem. We have a problem with just keeping allowing it, and that's what Judge Barber was saying. We have to force people to treat us as human beings. That's disgusting. That in itself is disgusting. Why do I have to make it something illegal for you to treat me as a human being? You don't have to like me. You don't even have to eat dinner, but to treat me as a human living soul.
I see what
that has to be legalized? Come on.
I agree with you, Mom. But how do we resolve this?
Yes, that's a very good question. How do we get okay, we know where we are at. How do we get from where we are at to where we would like to be?
Put the word out of my mouth. Can the judge help us that, I mean, how can
I personally think a lot of these problems can be solved when people are treated equally and their rights are preserved. And the same thing with the Haitian issue. You don't have to deport, a mammoth amount of people, thousands of people in an uneven way. And then you look at the Mexicans that are crossing the border and, oh no, you get to stay. And the people that are coming from other foreign countries like Singapore or from Ukraine or from other foreign countries, like, oh no, you come, yes, you get to stay. But no, if you're Haitian, we go back to Haiti. That it is the root of the problem is the fact that, again, we have this hierarchy system. It's a caste system where somebody's on top and everybody else is at the bottom. And when you have that type of system, the problem also is the fact that we're in a situation, or when you have that caste system, there are limitations put on what we can do unless we break through those limitations and break through those barriers and get the attention that is needed to address the issues. There's nothing wrong with, just as Marylin Pierre mentioned, allowing Haitians to file their case for asylum and then decide on that before you deport them unilaterally without a hearing or without proper protocol. And to the extent that you have and you have areas that are in dire need of jobs to be filled, that's another issue where resources can be used in a beneficial way to the country.
Okay. I agree with you, George. But my point is that, I mean, what's the purpose of coming here when, you know, the financial reason of coming is not going to be met?
But it's still better, and that's what Karen Holmes was talking about. It's still better than
You can get a job, you can get housing.
but it's still better. It doesn't, like, if you've been to other places that is less, here is still better. Period.
Well, then there's the issue that most of the time the cases for asylum are based on violent strife that is happening in the country where they cannot exist if they stayed in those conditions.
Okay.
That's usually the reason why people are fleeing countries.
Let me ask you this.
But I think that our reputation as a country took a great hit when after President Trump became president, because it was a race to the bottom as far as attitudes towards foreign people in general. So now maybe we don't feel that our hearts should open up to people who are whose lives are in danger.
My pushback, Joni, is this: being in other countries and being in this country, from what I've heard, a lot of many people feel about foreigners coming to this country. I think Trump just opened his mouth and spoke what a lot of people felt. So I don't think it took a hit. I just think he was speaking words to approximately 50 million people that were like, yeah, I agree with him.
But because of his attitude, there was no repercussions. So everybody felt that they could say distasteful things and not, there would be no repercussions for it. So usually when a country should have a consciousness and determine that, just like Judge Barber said, this is wrong. And people have to stand up and say, we as a country don't accept this attitude and we won't allow people to be treated this way. No one said it.
But we as a country have never said it.
Well, we're starting to say it. We're starting to say it,
but no. We had an opportunity to say it and we failed, because that's why I don't want to talk about Trump, because Trump is done. Trump is no longer in power. And I think that to say that we are giving the Biden administration a pass. You know, Biden was supposed to be a nicer, kinder person. That's why,
and he's not.
That's why he told us, show up at the polls, vote for me, because we want a different country. And lo and behold,
here he
comes in and he's like, oh, by the way, you know, I might be a different person, but we're still living in the same country. So the kindness that he promised is not there.
It's not there.
The people who are there are not asking for anything that everybody else who comes to this country seeking political asylum asks for, which is they want to come in, they want to be processed, and after being processed, they want to be able to apply for asylum. You know, just because you apply for it doesn't mean you're going to get it. But he's not even giving the people an opportunity to do that, which is actually unconstitutional. But because he, and I say he because he who is in charge, gets the blame. And this is happening on his watch. So I don't want to talk about Trump. I want to talk about him and what, you know, and how he has gone back on his word.
He did.
When he said that things were going to be different.
I just hope. I can't stop. I can't. If that's all we have is hope, we have to make him do. And if he's not going to do, and we said this before in another show, they're desperately trying to lose 2022 election. They're desperately trying to lose 2020. They're doing their best to lose 2024 president election, and they're definitely going to lose 2022 election, the midterm, and lose all the seats in the House, because what he's doing, what he has done thus far, isn't stellar. It just isn't.
Yeah, that's why when Judge Barber was talking about this being the only thing that he's done, no, I don't know what is going on. It's as if
Where's
They
Camilla?
forgot how to leave.
Where's Camilla?
You know, and I'm like, what is going on?
Did they silence her?
Who?
Camilla
Yeah.
from last week.
She's going, don't forget she went to South America and told them, don't come here, don't come here. And I'm like, you are a son, I'm sorry, you are a child of two different immigrants.
Right.
And you telling other people, don't come here? It you know, she has definitely drunk the Kool-Aid.
Well, first of all, I credit President Biden, not for, like I said before, this Haitian thing. And again, I'm not all knowing into all the things that have happened during his administration, but some of the things that he has gotten right include adding more minorities to the federal bench and to his administration in a far more progressive, he's taken a far more progressive path down that road than I ever saw in Trump's appointments. And he is trying to right the ship when it comes to a certain degree. Now, if he chose me,